or welcome back to you again, my fangs and thrones. My name's Hannah. This is a series video. Please excuse whatever the mess this is. My hair and I are having a disagreement. It needs washed. I don't want to wash it. And that's only because it takes forever to dry. So, point of this video is to read the entire study series or the Chronicles of Ixia series by Maria V. Snyder. Now, little caveat, I have read the first 7, which are the original 6, Poison Study, Magic Study, Fire Study, and then the Glass series, which is included, but if I remember right, follows a different protagonist, different group of characters. That's Stormglass, Seaglass, Spyglass. And then there is the more recent trilogy that concludes the whole series, which is Night Study, Dawn Study, Shadow Study. Now, I can't remember which way around they are, but I know I've read at least one. So, what I remember of this series is that it was probably my first introduction into older YA or romantasy as it's being termed now, and that we follow Yelena, who is a prisoner who has magic and is conscripted as the king or the commander's poison taster, and that the love interest, whose name I have forgotten, poisons her. That's pretty much what I can remember. I'm probably completely wrong because it has been years since I've read these, but I do remember them, that I really enjoyed them. And I do like this cover. I don't know if my camera can pick it up, but in the black, like the little smoke, you've got your smoke and then you've got the black, but I don't know if it can pick it up, but it looks like handwriting in the back. I just think that's a nice touch. From what I remember, all of the covers do it apart from my versions of the new ones. But let's read the back so I can remind myself. Going into this, there will be spoilers because I'm talking about a 9-book series, and obviously, where did that come from? That's a new spot. But anyway, this is a 9-book series, and I have no idea if I will be able to talk about them without spoiling anything. And obviously I can't talk about the second book without touching on the first, when they are all interlinked. So that's the preface and the spoiler warning out the way. So, like I say, I have no idea how long this is going to take, and if you saw my attempt at a I'm back video, you'll understand that on the 31st of May, which was the day after I posted and filmed and posted that video, was my last day at work because of redundancy. Now, on the morning of the 31st, I did have a job interview. That job interview was successful. So now I'm just waiting for a start date, and without going into too much of the nitty gritty, if I want my redundancy money, there is a time limit of when I can work. It's just a case of, because I worked previously for the NHS and I'm going back into the NHS as an admin. I'll just say administrator, because I couldn't think of the other title. So that's where we're at currently. So it's still Monday. I'm sorry about whatever glare is going on in my glasses. I'm in my bedroom, obviously, as you can see by the giant stacks, and the light is different of me. So we're just going to have to deal with the pretty blue splotches. But I have got 2. Let me just maneuver you. Page 106, which is chapter 11, and I forgot how quick this book moves. Within the first couple of chapters, we have pretty much we've moved on from what happened in the synopsis. We've met the commander, and I can't quite remember, but I am going into spoiler territory here because like I said, the first 7 books of this will be a reread, with 8 and 9 being new just to finish off the series, but I can't quite remember. But I think the commander, Yelena, and Valak have magic, and Valak is the spy master who recruits Yelena. I just couldn't remember his name. But I've also forgot about Rand, who is the cook, and Delana, who's the seamstress, and Marge, who is the grumpy housekeeper. So I forgot about that, and I also forgot about the details that are coming into it, like the fire festival, the ice festival, the fact that Valak is starting to maybe appreciate Yelena's sense of what was the word? It's not sense of self, but maybe it is. But her ability to escape anything. And hey, she compares herself to a rat a lot, which, we all know rats are intelligent and clean and do find escape holes a lot. So there is that. I am aware that this is an older book. I think it was... So it was published originally in the UK in 2007. This edition's 2013, so I think I got it later. But the copyright for this is 2005. So I think it was originally published in the States, most likely in 2005, and then the UK got it originally in 2007, with the reprint in 2013, I'm guessing, because that's usually the way it goes. We have 3 different dates on books with original copyrights and when England got it and, all that good stuff. But with the dates, I am aware that Hunger Games was probably inspired by the Poison Study rather than the other way around. But there is a very distinct similarity in the sense that Ixia is military run and it is military districts, and it is very hard to move from one district to another. Not impossible, but hard. You need all the paperwork and whatnot. And the rebels are Sitia or Sitcha. I'm going to say Sitia. And I'm guessing that's in the south. I can't remember details. It's been that long since I've read this. But let me just check the map. No, I think Sitcha's in the south, which is different. But yeah, it just reminds me of the Hunger Games in that sense that it is military run. There isn't a giant spectacle as such, and it was just the overthrow of the monarchy to the military is just called the takeover. It's not a war, it just happened one day. And our main girl, Yelena, I don't have a sense of how old she is. But I think knowing how old she is in the latter books, I think she's probably late teens. Same with Valak, but I think there's an age gap. Like I say, I can't remember, and I don't think anything's been said about their ages yet. But just knowing that Valak is very trusted by the commander-in-chief, who's called the commander, I think he's got to be a little bit older. And he is a spy master. But Yelena is an orphan. She is in prison for killing another commander's son. This commander, I've literally just read his name. Brazel. She was taken in by Commander Brazel, educated, and she repaid the favour by killing his son Razzle. No, not Razzle. It'll come back to me, but yeah. And Yelena is haunted by his metaphysical ghost. You know, nobody can see it, but she knows it's there, and she's having a guilt crisis over it, even though she's not said why she's done it or offered any kind of defense, because in this world, everybody is ruled by the code of behaviors, and the code of behaviors is very specific and not very lenient. I think one of the minor punishments that Yelena mentions is that everybody in this military compound, for want of a better word, has a uniform. You have to wear that uniform, and there are no exceptions and no excuses. So to say you only had one spare and your pants ripped, doesn't matter. You would be forced naked in the stocks for about a week. Whether it was intentionally you didn't wear it or accidentally you didn't wear it, the punishment is the same. So that's how Yelena ended up in prison. And I think it probably was self-defense, just going by what's been said in here. And I think it's been that long now that I'm pretty much just reading this for the first time again, and I'm not hating it. I am remembering how young she sounds in this one compared to Shadow Study, which, I mean, it makes sense. And the writing does seem young, it does seem dated, but this is a nostalgia read. It's not putting me off, which is strange. Not in a weird way, but you know. So I am enjoying it, and I'm going to read some more and come back to you probably when I've finished it. Yeah, I think that'll be the way to do it. So I'll see you on the flip side. I did actually finish Poison Study last night. I just didn't have a chance to, well, yesterday. I just didn't feel like updating the vlog, but now I am, and I did really enjoy being back in this world. I think I gave you a brief synopsis of this, but if we haven't by this point, it's too late. I did read the back though. What I did forget, and what I did really like, especially for the time, was that Commander Ambrose is trans. He believes he was meant to be born as a woman, and that he deserves everything that men get. He was just born in the wrong body. What's going on with the dragon? Is this why it's been bugging me? There we go. So that was an interesting little reminder, which proves why we need to reread our books sometimes, I think, because there are elements of it that we forget. Because I did forget about Rand and Delana and Marge and the Power Twins, who are Ari and Janko. Now, Ari and Janko are soldiers who end up befriending Yelena on a training exercise. She is meant to try and escape, and the soldiers are supposed to catch her. Now, she successfully evades them for a long time, and she decides she's had enough when she bumps into Janko and Ari. So there is that. We do find out right at the end that Yelena has magic, and because of that, she is put under a death warrant because, magic is exile. Magic is the big no-no in Ixia. And yeah, okay, there may be some prejudice on the commander's side for that. But he, especially after being taken over by an enemy magician through Krillio, which just reminds me of chocolate, I'm not going to lie. He cannot afford to be seen as lenient or weak in any way, shape or form. So Yelena ends up being exiled to Ixia in the south, where it's totally different to Ixia. And I am right in thinking that there is an age gap. Now, nothing is actually set in stone with how old these characters are, and the romance only really kicks in right at the end when Yelena and Valak are about to die. But yeah, Yelena pegs the commander at about 40, and then using the commander as a base point, she deduces, sort of pegs Valak as being about 7 years younger, so about 33. And I don't know why, but Yelena kind of reads in her 20s to me. I'm not sure. But this is a very intriguing book, again, as a reread. I am going to rate it, I think I'm going to rate it a 4. I did enjoy it. I did fly through it really quick. The writing is very basic, but at the moment that fits the story. We are in a military style compound / country where everything is for everything. There's no time to waste words. It is very fast paced and it is very easy to read. So I will be putting this series down and reading another book and then coming back to this, because otherwise I'm going to have nothing to talk about in wrap-ups. But yes, I'm enjoying this so far, and it is just a shame that my iPad camera will not pick up the fact that there is handwriting on this cover. The next book is Magic Study, and going by that title, I'm guessing we follow Yelena in Ixia, learning about her own powers. And I remember being absolutely obsessed with Valak when I read these the first time. I think he was my first book boyfriend. So we will dive right back into Ixia. Well, it'll be in no time at all for you, but it'll probably be like a week or so for me. And I will come back to you then. So it's been a couple of days for you. I'm going to pop you down here. Does this work? Yeah. So it's been a couple of days for me, but it's been like 5 seconds for you. But we are finally reading Magic Study by Maria B. Snyder. Obviously, the sequel to Poison Study, in which we meet Yelena and Valak and the commander. So I'm going to delve into spoiler territory here. From this point onwards, the vlog will be spoilery. I will be doing a wrap up, so my non-spoilery thoughts will probably be in the review. But as I'm reading, we will be spoilery. So, discovering her fate could prove deadly. Yelena Zaltana has been found guilty of possessing magical powers. The code of behaviour that rules the land of Ixia states she must be executed. Escape is her only hope. But when the freedom Yelena has fought for is once more in jeopardy, she must use her magic to survive. With only 1 year to prove herself, Yelena's future is uncertain, and when magic is involved, one mistake could mean sudden death. From what I remember of this book, this is where we meet Yelena's family. We find out pretty early on in the first book that she's adopted. So, and that her real name is actually Sultana. So that gives her something to go on. But like I say, I'm sure in this one and the subsequent books, she is with her family in the south. I can't quite remember when Valak comes back, but I know he does, especially because of what happens in Shadow Study. But we'll leave that for now, and we know there's a romance between Valak and Yelena, so we know this isn't a love triangle-y kind of series, so we know they are endgame. But we shall see, because what I remember, I say what I remember of the last one, I haven't read it that long ago. Yelena had been kicked out of Ixia, and when is this one published? First published in Great Britain in 2008. The original copyright is 2006. These are definitely a product of their time. So I will do what I normally do. I will read a couple of chapters and get, if I remember, I will come update you. I'll get to the middle, if I remember, update you, and then at the end I will update you. I definitely have to update you at the end, because then we know I'm moving on. But anywho, this is what I'm going to be reading next. Okay, so I did say I will come back to you when I'm about halfway through, and that happened last night. So I can tell you what happened so far. Yelena has met her family, her dad Ixia, her mum Pearl, and her brother Leaf, and Leaf is 2 years older than her, so I did finally get an age for her. I was right, she's 20. I thought she was about 20, but anyway. So Yelena is, I'm gonna pop you down. So Yelena has gone home to the Sultana clan. She has a pretty big extended family, and we have this is a little bit heavy-handed now, but we have a brown-skinned cousin called Hazelnut Palm Sultana, and everybody calls her Nutty. That isn't sitting well now, but at the time I think I just glossed over that, which was my mistake. So she is the Iris, the magician who sort of saved her from Ixia and some other girls from the old general's compound, have gone into Sitia to find their families. Elena's obviously a little bit of a different story because she isn't a child, so she stays with her family for about 2 weeks. Well, that's the plan. And then when Leaf goes to Sitia's capital city to speak to the magicians there, he is supposed to bring Yelena along. However, that doesn't quite happen because Leaf is very distrustful of Yelena from the start. But, you know, everybody else just thinks it's because he feels guilty, because the story goes is that Yelena was captured from the jungle floor and Leaf blames himself for that. Because he was 8 when she was taken, she was 6. So we have that going on. So Leaf doesn't trust her and blames himself in the same breath. But he is called to the capital early. And we have an ambush of the former king of Ixia's nephew, Cahill. Or Cahill. I'm going to call him Cahill. And it is a setup, essentially. Yelena bests them and ends up being treated as a guest, not as a prisoner. So that is a plot point that I think does get carried on, but I'm not 100%. I think it gets dropped eventually, so it's like a non-event. But the crux of this matter is Yelena is taken to the capital to learn about her powers. She can't do anything herself physically with her magic, but she can influence animals and people. She can read thoughts and influence decisions and outcomes. Because there is a scene where Iris is trying to get Yelena to light a candle. Yelena lights the candle through Iris. And then that was just a message. So she does that, and then alongside that there is a serial killer going on, and the 4 magicians who sort of rule Ixsia's council are scrambling to find out what the pattern is, what's going on, that kind of thing. And because of Yelena's ability to influence minds, she is called in to see if she can help this young girl, Tula, who has been brutally assaulted. So that is a content warning of rape mentioned, but not on page as of yet. And so Yelena goes into her mental mindscape and tries to help, but can't find Tula. So as I've just left it, the council is going to try and find Tula's younger sister to see if that can help her bring back. And Yelena has discovered an ability to heal. She is bordering on overpowerful, but at the moment her magic is balanced out by her own physical strength. If she uses too much magic, she gets tired, passes out, that kind of thing. And I can finally place my obsession with animal magic. Because every story, if there is an animal in it, if there is animals in it, if dragons is different. We're not touching dragons right now. But if there is an animal magic element to the story, I will eat it up. To the point where it influences my own creations, my own writing. I think every story I've written has some sort of shapeshifter, some sort of animal magician, some sort of magic that allows people to talk to animals, and I think it all stems from this book. Because Yelena makes friends with Topaz the horse and Kiki. Now they are Sandseed clan horses, I think, who are desert dwellers, and Cahill is supposed to be Yelena's horse riding instructor, and he insults Kiki, and Kiki ends up kicking him in the arse, which is such a fun scene to read. But anyway, Yelena can't ride a horse, but reaching out with her magic, she connects with Topaz. Topaz becomes her friend, and Topaz tells her to pick Kiki as a horse. So Kiki then becomes Yelena's horse, and I think, if I'm remembering right, Kiki is what the Sandseed clan call a heart horse. And I think that's not a term, and I think that's not a fantasy specific term. I think the horse riding girlies use that for the horse that you would never sell, the horse that is yours and just connects with you. So there is that. And I'm trying to remember, because we have 4 magicians. Iris, who we know from the first book, who found Yelena and has bonded with her because she's her teacher. Bane, who is the only male magician of the 4, and is a bit of a rarity because I think it was explained by Iris that about 30% of the magicians were male. And then we have Rose, who I don't like. Because of how Yelena was brought to the capital, Cahill and Leaf accuse her of being an Ixian spy, which I mean is a reasonable assumption. She has an Ixian uniform. She prefers the pants of the Ixian uniform, and I mean, wouldn't you if that's all you've ever worn? But she has Ixian coins, and she has a loyalty to this country that, essentially housed her, brought her up, and where she lived.
So that raises some interesting questions on what Leaf expected his sister to be. Bear in mind, she was taken at 6 and had to survive in a foreign country. But so Rose essentially thinks along the same lines as Leaf and Cahill, and mind rapes her, for want of a better term. She delves into Yelena's memory and tries to get as much information out of her as possible. Now, Yelena is stubborn. I think that's all this comes down to. Not magical strength or anything like that. Yelena is incredibly stubborn and manages to keep Rose out for the most part. The last member is described as so sweet she wouldn't hurt a fly, which has got my back up a little bit. I don't know why, I just don't trust her. Maybe because in Zatora, that's it. Zatora is super sweet and would rather die than hurt a fly, which, oh, come on, I've read Game of Thrones. I know that doesn't always end well, and I can't remember, but I think Zatora is involved. Tula, the little girl who was assaulted, was from her clan. So, we shall see where that one ends up. I don't trust Zatora. Rose just seems too obvious of a suspect, and they aren't, and the four magicians aren't looking to themselves yet. So maybe I'm completely off base and remembering something else. That's the joys of rereading things that you read years ago. The other books that I've read from Maria V. Snyder is the Touch of Power series. That's the Avery Xan books, Touch of Power, Scent of Magic, and I can't remember the last one. And I don't think it was out at the same time this one was. No. So, I've rambled on long enough. I have things to do, so I will come back when I finish this. Okay, so we have a lot of hair going on today. Let me just sit down. So I have finished Magic Study. Ta-da. I haven't wrote a review or anything for it yet, but I think it's going to come out at a 4-star. And arguably, I liked it a bit more than Poison Study because we are getting more world building. I think Yelena is actually coming into her own a bit more. It's still very Fade to Black with the sex scenes, which isn't a bad thing in any way. And I think as she becomes less militarized by Ixia, I think her writing, the writing style and her inner voice is also becoming a lot more free. It wasn't who I thought it was. The bad guy, that's all I'm going to say. And the characters, especially Leaf, do become a lot more understandable. So I did really enjoy this one. And I think it does raise some interesting questions about whether or not if you are one of one heritage, if you end up in somewhere else, what heritage can you claim? So that is a very interesting point. And I did have the commander down as trans, but now I think they are a two-spirit. I hope that's the right term. Apologies if I've offended anyone, but that's just the best way I can think to describe the commander, because they have two spirits in them. They can sort of switch between male and female very easily. So, yes, and I do love Pearl. She's hilarious. Every time something wrong happens, she climbs up a tree. And it's absolutely hilarious. Because if you think about it, she's got to be, what, like 40, 50? Because Yelena's 20. So, just there's visions of this woman scarpering up a tree. But Yelena does make some friends. So her icy exterior is melting. She's not keeping as many people away this time. And even though I know that it has a somewhat happy ending, I'm still very intrigued. We left off we know who the murderer is, but we haven't caught them yet. And Cahill is a pain in the backside. He's going to cause some trouble in Fire Study, which is obviously the next read. But you know how I'm doing this by now. I read a study book, and then I read a new book, and then I come back to the study book. So I will do that. So I'll see you in what feels like 5 seconds. So we are now reading Fire Study by Maria V. Snyder. This is the 3rd book and is the conclusion to the original study series. Then we move on to the Glass series. So the battle of her life has begun. In the barren territory of Ixia, power comes at a price. Yelena Zoltana possesses the most terrifying magic in the district, the ability to capture and release souls. While the sinister Sicilian Council meet to decide her fate, Yelena must capture a soul stealer, her dark counterpart, until she discovers someone far more dangerous. And in the war between good and evil, there can only ever be one victor. Now, I am still really enjoying these. This one is still a reread, and it is 441 pages. So I think in this one we learn more about Yelena's magic and where she how she can control it. We get I think we get more Valak as well, because at the end of the last book, Yelena became an advisor, a liaison between Ixia and Ixia. And I'm still very intrigued to figure out where this is going. So I will read a bit, come back to you, and then get halfway through, come back to you, and then at the end. We know how this goes by now. So we are now reading Fire Study by Maria V. Snyder. This is the 3rd book and is the conclusion to the original study series. Then we move on to the Glass series. So the battle of her life has begun. In the barren territory of Ixia, power comes at a price. Yelena Zoltana possesses the most terrifying magic in the district, the ability to capture and release souls. While the sinister Sicilian Council meet to decide her fate, Yelena must capture a soul stealer, her dark counterpart, until she discovers someone far more dangerous. And in the war between good and evil, there can only ever be one victor. Now, I am still really enjoying these. This one is still a reread, and it is 441 pages. So I think in this one we learn more about Yelena's magic and where she how she can control it. We get I think we get more Valak as well, because at the end of the last book, Yelena became an advisor, a liaison between Ixia and Ixia. And I'm still very intrigued to figure out where this is going. So I will read a bit, come back to you, and then get halfway through, come back to you, and then at the end. We know how this goes by now. Oh, I did pop in to tell you that I got to page 124 of Fire Study by Snyder. Look at my little fabric bookcase. I got this from Charlie and Fox. Isn't it cute? Of course it's dragons, but we have dived right back into the action with Fire Study. Yelena is learning about her new Soul Finder abilities, and we're back to where we started, pretty much, where people don't trust her. That's something we're getting past. We have a new mystery that I don't think is related to Ferd and Cahill. There's a new ritual where people are using blood magic to increase their own power, but it's still fairly enjoyable. There is a lot more backstory being woven into this one, I've realised, and the writing is definitely less military report and more feeling, more expressive, in my opinion, and I think that may have been deliberate, as the more Yelena moves away from the military, the more she's allowed to feel, in my opinion. But that being said, we haven't had Valak yet, but Yelena is very much settled in Ixia. She's learning to trust the council, but it's still a work in progress, and I'm still enjoying it. Like I say, the first 7 of these books are a reread, so it's more a case of just reminding myself of what's happened. And I can't say for certain if it's going to be another 4-star, just because I'm not that far into it, but we shall see. Ignore this, I'm trialing something. I have a heatless curling rod in, because I went in the shower this morning and I forgot how long my hair takes to dry, so we have that. And the bonnet is there just to keep everything nice. So ignore this for now. I have just finished Fire Study by Snyder. This is the conclusion to the first trilogy following Yelena, and I'm not sure how I feel. I don't think I liked it as much as the other two, but it's still a solid. I enjoyed it. It's still solid. It still holds up to me. And I do like how we finally got answers. We finally got answers. Oh, in case I haven't mentioned it, I know I mentioned it in another vlog, but the cover that I'm using is from Charlie and Fox. They do some amazing, cute things, but we find out who is the big bad, and I'm not mad at it. I couldn't remember it, so that's a good thing, I guess. The thing with rereading books is you forget what you know and you remember what you don't know. And yes, I am still blaming this book for my soul, my spirit guide, spirit animal kind of obsession in books. I think that book started it all. But the overall storyline was good. It wrapped up nicely. Now I know in the next trilogy we follow Opal, so there's a lot more of a focus on her towards the end of this book, introducing her as a protagonist and setting up her trilogy. And I have to admit, I did like the way the ending was done. It was ingenious and it fit with what we knew of the world. It was out of the box thinking, but it fit. And I am very intrigued to see where we go with glass study. Either way, I think it's sea glass next, but I'll tell you that when I come back to you. So it has been a while since I've updated this vlog, I feel. I've picked up Stormglass, which is book 4 in the overall series, but is the first in the second trilogy, which is the Glass trilogy, which follows Opal Cohen, who we met in, I want to say Magic Study or Fair Study, maybe both, but I shall read the back. Oh, and this is the cover. It does have the writing on it as well, not that my camera can pick it up. But untrained, untested, unleashed. With her unique magical abilities, Opal Cohen has always felt unsure of her place at City's Magic Academy, but now it's time to test her powers in the real world. Under threat from a deadly massacre, the powerful Stormdancer clan need Opal's unusual skills to protect their people, and their plea is impossible to resist, especially when it comes from mysterious mercurial Cade. Yet, pulling her powers in unfamiliar directions pushes Opal to uncover a new kind of magic as stunningly potent as it is frightening, with danger and deception rising all around her, while Opal's untested abilities destroy her or save them all. This does seem to follow the same kind of vibes as Poison Study, a young girl who is underestimated, underappreciated, coming into her own and saving the day. That's the vibe I'm getting so far. But I am on page 40. Yes, I stopped in the middle of a chapter. So what's everybody gonna do about that? But yes, I'm probably about 3 or 4 chapters in. These chapters seem longer. But we've met Opal, we've been reintroduced to her, been reintroduced to a couple of the characters, specifically the Masters from the original 3. You can see it just there at the top. And it's too soon to say how I feel about this one, but I do think, even though I can't remember the Glass trilogy as much, I don't think it was my favourite. There was something about Opal that I just didn't like on the first read through. So maybe on a second read through I will feel differently about her, but I'm going in with an open mind, especially since I can't remember anything that happened in this trilogy. So yeah, it's so hot. So I am about halfway through Stormglass. Yes, so I can tell you a bit more about it now. Basically, in this one, we follow Opal, who is primarily a glass worker. We know her from the original trilogy, but she's now in her 20s. She's studying at the Magician Academy in Ixia. And there is a conspiracy with the Stormdancers. Now, they use glass orbs to trap the energy of the storm, use that storm energy to power their machinery, their factories. And lately, the Stormdancers' orbs have been very poor quality. They are breaking, and this is causing the storm dancers themselves to die because of the backlash of the energy. Now, where Opal comes in is she is, as a glass magician, she is tasked with finding out what's happening. Why are these glasses shattering? And so going from there. Obviously, it's not as simple as that. We have conspiracy. We have why it's breaking, who was causing it to break, and all of that. But I think we may also be getting a little bit of a love triangle. Opal is attracted to two guys. And we have Cade, who is a sullen, stormy storm dancer, who is grieving the loss of his sister. So they have that in common, because if you remember from the first trilogy, we meet Opal because her sister Tula is captured. And yes, I would say I'll get on with that in a minute. And then the other guy is Ulrich, who is a fellow glass blower and possible other glass magician. But there is an age difference, and Opal not a massive age difference, but enough that Opal worries that Ulrich would just see her as a sister, because they've kind of grown up together. But in terms of reading order, I think you probably could read the Glass trilogy before the study series, but I wouldn't recommend it. You'll lose some of the nuance, and you won't feel I don't think you would feel as connected to Opal as you could if you would seen her from where she started, and you'd miss a lot of the character introductions like Fisk, and you would miss the sort of importance of Yelena. Are we liking these curls? I'm liking these curls, but I'm going to get back to it because we are coming up to the end of June, and ideally I want this finished soon. But reading 9 books is going to take its time. I've got no idea how long this vlog is going to be. So, 2 updates. I have finished Stormglass, and I liked it. I actually finished it last night. I've just been sitting on my thoughts and whatnot. But I did like it. I do think Snyder's characters do run the risk of being slightly overpowered. The reason being for this one is that at the end of... I think at this point we know it's going to be spoilers, but I think the reason being for Opal is because we think she's a one-trick wonder. She can only create these glass messengers, which, if you can't see the magic, look ugly. If you can't see the magic, then the fire inside changes them. It doesn't change how they look, it just changes. You just see the fire inside, so it changes how you feel. But at the end of Stormglass, we see that Opal can siphon magic. So obviously that's a big no-no, because she accidentally has stolen her classmate, her colleague's magic, and that's obviously a bad thing. The love triangle is interesting, and it isn't resolved straight away in the first book, which makes me think that it is going to be a continuation for this little trilogy. And I have no idea what happens next, because even though I've read these ones, it was a while ago, and it's then and this Glass trilogy isn't my favourite. I don't really like Opal, but it is sort of, I think it's required to to read this before you move on to like shadow study, night study, dawn study, to round out the series. But I think in shadow study we are back with the Elena, if I remember right. So I am looking forward to reading these books. Are so much bigger than the study trilogy was. But we have book 5, which is Sea Glass. I mean, I do like these covers a bit more, but A Game of Magic. So I'll pop you down. There we go. A Game of Magic. Student magician Opal Cowan's newfound ability to steal others' powers makes her too powerful. Trapped under house arrest, Opal dares to defy her imprisonment, searching for Ulrich, the man she thinks she loves. Thinks, because she is sure another man, now her prisoner, has switched souls with Ulrich. In hostile territory, without proof or allies, Opal isn't sure whom to trust. She doesn't know the real Ulrich's whereabouts and can't forget Kate, the handsome storm dancer who doesn't want to let her get too close. And now everyone is after Opal's special powers for their own deadly gain. There's just something about Yelena who was just a bit more spunky, a bit more, had something about her. And I'm not sure about Opal. I say that, I'll read this one and something will happen and I'm my best friend. But we will get there when we get there. So I'm going to start this and then I'll come back to you with my initial feelings. So, I've made progress on Sea Glass, and again, not my favourite. There is something about Opal that I just can't get behind. Yes, I get that she's supposed to be sweet, but it seems like things are happening to her rather than her affecting things. It just seems that she's a bit, yeah, okay, this is happening, what do I do now? I will continue because, I am intrigued to find out what the heck is going on with these fake diamonds. And I cannot remember if she ends up with Ulrich or Cade, although the fact that Ulrich's being body swapped is giving some interesting thoughts to that love triangle. And as soon as I finish this trilogy, I get to start the back end of the study series, which, if I remember right from Shadow Study, which is the only one I've read, we are back with Yelena. And I much prefer Yelena to Opal. I know that's an awful thing to say, especially since Opal's backstory is quite tragic, but she's just not my favourite. It's been a while since I've updated this vlog. What's my hair doing? We'll just ignore that. And I've started Spyglass by, obviously, Maria V. Snyder last night. I got to page 106. And in this one, it is the last of the Opal books, which I am so happy about. But it says, a new legacy is rising. After siphoning her own blood magic, Opal Cowan has lost her powers and been separated from Cade and Ulrich, the two men who divide her heart. Now, an outsider looking in, Opal spies through the glass on those with the powers she once had, until spying through the glass becomes her new power. Suddenly, the beautiful pieces she makes flash in the presence of magic. And then she discovers that some of her blood has been stolen, and that finding it may let her regain her powers for good, or learn if they're lost forever. And Opal is so whiny. Yes, I get that, a lot has happened to her. I get that. But up until the events of the third book in this series, she didn't know she had magic. So she's lived so long thinking she didn't have it. I'll rephrase. At this point, she's lived without magic longer than she's lived with it. And she's just so whiny and passive. But I think in this one she is getting a little less passive and she's affecting the story a bit more. But that's just not my favourite. And if it wasn't for this vlog, this challenge, I would have DNF'd. I'm wondering if I can keep the Yelena books, depending on the outcome of the last 3, and read them without reading the study series, the glass series. Something to think about. So we are doing a sit-down video update because I want to. We have a spyglass update, as you can tell by the fact that it is not in the little cover. I have finished it. I think this is the worst book yet. I think I ended up rating it 2, maybe 3 stars. One day I will have these updates prepared. I will have everything I need for these updates prepared. Let me see. 3 stars. Opal is just so whiny. Yes, I get that things have happened to her. Yes, I get that, she was very young when these things happened. So they've probably, influenced her in ways I can't imagine. But she's so passive. I just think I'm hate reading at this point. But we finished Opal's trilogy, so we'll go back to the Yelena books, which I am so happy about. And I don't know if I've already said, but I think because I've had such a time with these books, I'm just going, when I finish this, I'm just going to donate them. Someone else can enjoy, suffer, as it goes. So the next book I will be reading in that series, I think, is Shadow Study. Yes. So this is the next book to read, but I will give you an update on that when I am ready. Okay, so it has been a while since I've updated this vlog, but I am finally reading Shadow Study, and we are back. I don't sound too excited about that at all, do I? But we are back with Yelena, so hopefully this little trilogy goes better than the last one. But Yelena Sultana is back and facing her biggest battle. When Yelena was a poison taster, her life was simpler. She survived to play a vital role in the balance of power between rival countries Ixia and Ixia. Now she uses her magic to keep the peace in both lands and protect her relationship with Valak. Yet dissent is rising. Valak's job and life are in danger, and Yelena's magic has been compromised. Now she faces her toughest challenge: uncover and defeat her hidden enemies without the help of her powers. Now this will be a reread. I can't remember exactly what I rated this, but I must have enjoyed it enough to buy the next 2. So we will see how this goes. And I think this was written a little bit later than the others. This was written in 2015. So let's see how I find it. Don't have much more to tell you. But if you can remember, I mean, it wasn't that long ago for you, but it was ages ago for me. At the end of Fire Study, we left Yelena in the underworld. She'd just come back. She's dealing with her new Soul City Finder abilities. Then we switched to Opal, where it was Opal's story, but Yelena still kind of popped in every now and again. And she didn't seem as overpowered in Opal's point of view, but we will just dive into this and I will tell you what I think. So I have finished Shadow Study. I liked it a lot more than I liked the Glass trilogy. I think that is fair to say, but it still came out as a 3-star. It would have been a higher 3-star than the Glass books, but still. In this one, we're back with Yelena, who is doing her soul findery mojo between Ixia and Ixia. She is a neutral party. She's respected in both countries. I'm going to pop you down there. She's respected in both countries, but you know, there is still that massive distrust between magicians, non-magicians, Ixians, Sichians, that kind of thing. But in this one, she loses her magic. That's not a spoiler, it says it on the back, which turns her a little bit helpless. She seems to run into things a lot more. Yes, she does rely on the skills that Valak taught her when she was poison tasting for him, well, the commander. But, you know, it's not the Yelena we've come to appreciate and love. But, you know, we try to go through what's caused her magic loss. Now, this is a reread, so I had my suspicions because this vlog is spoiler filled. We know that. Although I think at this point it's more just like a hate rant. Anyway. At the end of the book, literally the last 2 words are "I'm pregnant." So I have a theory that her magic is going to the baby. And that is a trope I don't like anyway. Like, how can you not know you're pregnant or use the pregnancy as a cliffhanger? It's a bit of an iffy topic for me personally, but you know, I'm still going to read the book because I want to know why the commander sent an assassin after Valak. I don't care about Yelena and the baby. I just want to know about Valak and the commander at this point. But that being said, we do get more backstory with how Valak came to serve the commander. We see him actually kill the king in the form of flashbacks, because this book does something different than the other ones. We still primarily follow Yelena in first person, and she's still just as I did this, I did that, we kissed, I grabbed Kiki. Still very showy very telly rather than showy. Very militarized almost, very basic. But we do get Valak's perspective in third person, and we get Janko, and I think we get Ari as well. Now, if you remember, Janko and Ari are Valak's. They're pretty much his second in commands at this point, and they've all split up, but inevitably they get captured again. And what's really annoying in this one is there's all this build up to finding out who is the big bad. Although we just get the henchman at this point. He's supposed to have this emotional impact, but I cannot remember for the life of me who he is or what part he has played in the previous books. So that may be on me, but you know, he needs to have more of an impact. We need to remember what he's actually done rather than a few lines of, oh, this guy did this. And I mean, it was clever the way they used false memories, but Yelena sees through it, so what was the point in that? It fails. Anyway. So Janko and Yelena end up captured, and we do not see the release. It's supposed to be this big emotional impact, and we don't see it. Instead, we get Yelena coming back to consciousness again, being healed again, and ending with her panicking about not taking this moon potion, which has never been mentioned in any other book, but suddenly becomes a plot device because it's a year-long contraception that she forgot to take. And she was supposed to take it on her next cycle, which we find out right at the end didn't come, and that, you know, as I mentioned, the last 2 words of this book are, I'm pregnant. But that being said, 3 stars. I enjoyed it. Certain bits I didn't. But this still feels like a bit of a comfort blanket read. We've gone back to the characters that I actually enjoy. So it still feels like comfort at this point. Now, Dawn Study and Night Study are the final 2 books in the series. I haven't read them. So they won't be a reread. Everything that I experienced there will be for the first time, and I'm actually looking forward to it. I get to finish a series that I've been reading since about 2010, I want to say, but I don't think it was that. But yes, this one doesn't feel as dated. Yelena doesn't feel as I'm not like other girls in this one. So we shall see how I feel at the end of this. Okay, so I'm reading Night Study, which is book 8 in the Ixia series. And I'm about halfway through. And it is very, very repetitive. I'm not sure what the point of these books are, if only fan service. And Valak seems not himself. The same with the commander. Things just don't seem in keeping with character. But anyway, a new darkness is rising for Yelena Zaltana. Ever since being kidnapped from the Ilias jungle as a child, Yelena Zaltana's life has been in peril. But the recent loss of her soul-finding abilities, the powerful magic that has protected her before, has made her more vulnerable to her enemies. As she searches for a way to reclaim her abilities, neither Ixia or Sitia are safe for her, especially since the growing discord between the 2 countries and the possibility of a war threatens everything Yelena holds dear. Now, with the most sinister threat she has ever faced approaching, Yelena will have to find a new way to fight the dark. Like I say, I'm about halfway through, and at this point I'm not even sure what I'm reading because it's all so repetitive. Yelena's managed to get herself kidnapped, I think, at some point, or she will. And I'm still not sure who the big bad Owen is and what his point is. And it just seems very fan servicey, especially the stuff in Valak's POV, because it does not seem like the same person. But there must be something intriguing about this, otherwise I wouldn't be reading it. Probably to find out what the heck is going on with the commander rather than anything else. But you know, 'tis what it is. I will come back to you when I finished it. So this is the end of the video. Yes, I decided that reading that book, the last 2 books, was not worth putting myself in a slump for. I got to I think I got over halfway in book 8 and was just bored. I tried skim reading it just to try and see if that would help, but no, it's just bored. So I finished the challenge. I didn't pass, but I finished it. So that's it for this video. If there's any other series that you want me to try, let me know and I will do my best. So with that, give this video a like if you like it, and hit that subscribe button if you see this, talk about these, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.